Elen sila lumen amentielvo. A star shines on the hour of our meeting. Hello friends, I'm Narelon, Starfire, pronouns he, him. Welcome to the stream. It's Sunday, which is of course Minecraft Day, modelling day, painting day. I was thinking about Tuesday. I don't know why. Anyway, how we all doing? Hi Loomis, hi Beerat. Hope you having a good day today. Hope Sunday's treating you well. Managed to be later than normal today, but that's no great surprise, I imagine. You know, being late is what I'm good at. Had a good hobby day with my game tinkering. Oh, fantastic. It's really interesting to see you kind of going through all the files and like reconstructing stuff, B-Rat. I found that really interesting. That's B-Rat's been telling us about that in our Discord. Exclamation mark Discord in the chat if you're interested. Minecraft, I'll be right there. Yes, thank you, Lewis. I don't even know why I said that. Thank you, Vera, and then Lewis for trying. Banned. The part of the reason I'm late is because, this is the reason I'm late is, someone might have been talking about a certain game in our Discord, and then I thought, I'll just play this half an hour, and then it ended up being way more than half an hour, and then I was running late and having to try and get everything ready in time. So, that might be a thing. That's what I've ended up doing today, which I wasn't going to. I thought just a few minutes and then I'll, go and do something else. Been working on some models in my own time. But it didn't end up being that. I've still got to do underneath. Was it Alpha Centauri? No, it was 7 Kingdoms. It was 7 Kingdoms. I thought I'll just have half an hour. Yeah, just a quick go. I've got an anchoring for it, and he's been talking about it and posting photos, screenshots, and I was like, I found myself this when I woke up. I think I gave me breakfast ready or something, and I was like whistling one of the tracks of the soundtrack. So I thought, clearly it's in my mind. I'll have half an hour. But it became much more than half an hour. And so I've been running late trying to catch up after that. When I was looking at game footage on YouTube earlier, the recommended videos reminded me of something that will ruin your day. Oh no, what's that? 7 Kingdoms 3, aka 7 Kingdoms Conquest. How to ruin a franchise. How to ruin a franchise, eh? I feel like I'm self-skewered. It's 7 Kingdoms in name only, and it's one of them. And the thing is, I literally forgot about it until I saw a thumbnail. Yeah, I'd forgotten about it until you just mentioned it. Oh, no. Now, before I've kind of not objected, but quibbled perhaps a little bit about, when people say things like, oh, Fallout 4 is not a real Fallout game or something like that. And I've kind of gone, that's, what is a Fallout? What is a Fallout game? But that is not a 7 Kingdoms game. I'll be a hypocrite in this regard. I'll be a hypocrite just on the sole basis of how much I dislike that and what they did with the franchise, the series. I'm trying to order a physical copy off Amazon so I can look at the game files, but my bank is refusing the purchase. It might be an omen. I think it is. I think it's trying to stop you from putting yourself through it. I need a new brush. This one's not working properly. How did I just get paint on me? Who did you play as in your 7K game, and was it 7K1 or 7K2? It was 7 Kingdoms 1. I was playing as the Persians. Personally, I think that turning it into a card-based tactical beat-em-up was the logical next step for the series. Somehow, I think I would have minded that less. I think I'd have been like, you know what, sure, this is legit. Yeah, I was playing as the Persians. I've always liked the Persians. I've got some Egyptians and some Chinese in my kingdom. I beat one of my rivals. I've done some Freitan hunting for scrolls of power. Wow, I made a complete mess of that already. It's okay, it's on the side of the turret. I can deal with that in a bit. It's so much fun. Like, what a game. What a good game it is. I suppose in that case you could say it's a spin-off, not a sequel. If it was, that absolutely, yeah. If they'd done it like a completely different format like that, I think you would say, yeah. It's like a spin, and I think there's room for that actually. I think there's room for doing different kinds of games within a particular settings, like IP, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of like with look at me just sticking turret on my thumb. It's kind of like me when it comes to like 40k. That I like the idea of the other games within it, like Battlefleet Gothic, to do the as it used to be, to do like the spaceship side, and Aeronautica Imperialis for the planes and stuff like that. Like I like the idea that there's these. I know they're all still minish, tabletop war games, whatever. But I like the idea that there's scope for doing things a little bit differently in there. I definitely need a new brush for this. To get one. The bristles have gone all clumpy. I'm not really sure why. I don't normally. That reminds me, I wonder if it defaults to your king's race if you kill the all-high Freitan with a war machine instead of a soldier. I don't actually know that. I've never done it. When I was a kid, like when I first played it back in the 90s, I used to use a lot of war machines. I thought they were really cool. But then as I've got older, I've like not bothered so much. Like when I've played it as an adult, I've just kind of been like focused on the soldiers themselves. Even though the war machines are actually really useful. I tend not to do them. It doesn't tend to be done well, but I'm fine with the idea in principle. Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, I like the idea of there being different ways you can kind of explore a setting, and doing like different things with it. But as you say, probably don't tend to work out in practice. But yeah, I've never actually killed an all. So what we're explaining is the game Seven Kingdoms 2. Seven Kingdoms 2. We've been talking about, but in Seven Kingdoms, in both of them there are monsters called Freitans who live in layers around the map. In the first game, if you want to be able to get a scroll of power, to be able to build your seat of power and summon a greater being to help you, you have to kill the leader of the group of those monsters called an all-high. And the scroll you get is dictated by the nationality, if you like, of the soldier who struck the killing blow. So it can become a little bit tactical because, if you want, for example, the Egyptian scroll of power, let's say, you've got to make sure that it's an Egyptian who does it, and this is what I was doing earlier. Actually. I'd not got enough Egyptians to actually do what I needed them to do, but so I needed to like back them up with Persians, but then I had to make sure that my Persians didn't inflict the fatal blow because I'd already got the Persian scroll of power. Jungling. I mean, I guess it technically is kind of jungling, isn't it? Killing monsters to get buffs. Yeah, it's jungling, isn't it? Can we claim that Seven Kingdoms came up with the idea of jungling? Now you're making me miss League, Loomis. Why are you doing that to me? Yeah, that way you'd say, I don't know, you or someone would be doing jungle and be like, help me with dragon, and then we'd all like, I'd pole up from bot lane, and yeah, I'd be playing Lux and stealing all the kills, just because that's what Lux support does, right? If you're playing a Lux support and you're not like getting all the kills instead of your ADC, are you even playing Lux right? There's really no point putting the wash on the bottom, but I want the colour to stay even across all the rest of the tank, so I kind of got to do it really. Yeah, I thought it had. If you've got a good economy, war machines can be quite good. I think they're experimenting with infinite mine resources now in the latest 7K fans official build. Oh, that's quite interesting. That changes the gameplay quite a lot, doesn't it? Because one of my strategies is always to try and, if a new resource, because there are, you specify at the beginning of the game how much of these resources there are to mine, and they expire after a while. They run out. So one of my tactics is, and then a new one will spawn to replace it. So one of my tactics is just to try and build a mine on resources as soon as they appear, so that you can essentially monopolize them. And I've won games just by sheer economy. Like, I've been facing against like a powerful kingdom that I've not really wanted to tangle with militarily, but I've managed to build mines on all the resources, and then eventually they just have to, everything kind of collapses and they have to like sell all the buildings because they run out of money. I don't want to be the one to suggest it or play in League again. Do you feel the call as well? Do you feel an urge to play League? Because I do, and I don't want to. Like, I don't want to do it, but I also do want to do it. I kind of miss it. Like, I don't think about it, right? It's not like I'm always kind of like, oh, I wish I could play League again. But when we get talking about League, and I start remembering like the fun we had and stuff, then I do find myself wanting to play League. Because we did have fun is the thing, right? We had a lot of fun. It's just, people who spoil it for you. I do. Oh no. You're feeling tempted to play League again. So I've got to kind of put my tank down so I can do the tracks. So I'm kind of like looking weird around the mic. That's where I'm doing. Because it's the bit where I can't really handle the tank while I do it. So I've got to kind of do it in this bizarre way. So that's what I'm doing. So this wasn't a problem when I had the crappy sounding headset mic, because it just turned with my head, but now I've got to like pull a weird position while I do it. I also think I've like way overwashed these tracks. I have. It's fine, don't worry about it. Metal Gear Rising is a good example of a genre change spin-off. You play as a one-man assault team instead of a one-man stealth unit, but most militaries tend to have both. Even though the gameplay is very different, it still feels like a Metal Gear game and is one of my favourites in the series. Well, that's really good. We were actually talking about Metal Gear on on the Kira Chat stream yesterday. Or rather about Hideo Kojima's depictions of women, shall we say? Oh, apparently it actually doesn't depend on who dealt the killing blow on the All-High Freitan. The game scans the area and counts how many units of each race are there, and then spawns a scroll of the most populous unit. If there's no humans, it picks a random race scroll of power. Oh, that's so different to what I always imagined. Like, I never thought that. What does it say in the manual? Does it say anything in the manual? Because I've spent 28 years under the... I've spent 28 years under the assumption that it was who struck the killing blow. Like, 28 years. It must be, right? No, 26 years, sorry. 26 years. Under the assumption that it was about who struck the killing blow. This is game changing. Classic Warhammer player. What does the manual say? Sorry, can I just have a look at your rules a minute? I don't know how many times I've done that. You know, like at a tournament, and somebody's like, somebody will be like, yeah, this happens, and I'm like, sorry, can I just have a look at your army book? And they're like, yeah, you can. I'm like, I don't think that's... Because you don't want to call out your opponents and just be like, no, I think you're wrong, or I think you're lying, you little cheat. You don't want to do that. So you kind of, yeah, I don't think I've knew that before. Can I just check your army book? Or even that time where someone was being awkward with us. So I kind of like winked at Asmoth, my teammate, and said, yeah, I'm just gonna have a look in your shop because I want to see if they've got something that I'm looking to buy later. Scooted over to the shop and had a look at roll at their army book off at shelf in the shop. And then came back and was like, yeah, we were right, Paul, we were right. To Asmoth. Anarchist weirdly obsessed with tabletop board game rules. Me. Yeah. Is this going to be about Quiet again? To be honest, the thing that really upsets me about the Quiet thing is that Kojima can and has written really good female characters, but that time he just didn't bother. The joke was originally about Quiet. The context is Baldur's Gate 3, where there's a character that like some people really really like called Shadowheart, and Kira Chats doesn't like it because she just comes across as kind of rude and demanding and things. But people kept insisting that no, you don't understand her yet. You don't understand her. And then I think it was, I think Kira Chats mentioned it, but then Birat said the thing that Kojima had said about Quiet and why she has to be like in lingerie. But then somebody else was like, yeah, Kojima normally writes women really well. And so Kira Chats then brought up various like clips of how women are treated in the Metal Gear games. So it was started with Quiet and branched out. What's the name? Sniper Wolf, who's got this like plunging V-neck, like for whatever reason, and the depiction of Meryl, the way she was written, and then whichever character is where the camera just follows the bum. So that was the discussion. Oddly, the manual does not specify the logic behind what scroll gets spawned. Have I just assumed? Have I been assuming this whole time? Just been like, yeah, that seems legit. Is that what I've been doing? I'm obviously not the tabletop gamer I thought I was. Well, I know what I'm doing tomorrow, testing both the GOG and Steam versions of the game to see what happens. Nice. So now what I'm doing, by the way, is I've base coated it that dark red, which is actually corn red, which is the base paint. We've talked about that before, about how GW has these formulated to be thicker. It's called the base paints. And then I'm now going to a layer, which I think we've talked about this before, about the way you can look. These look pretty much the same. I know, I'm honest, it kind of ruins the colour. You can see they're pretty much the same. This is a layer paint, so it's slightly thinner, so it's not going to cover as well. But we're using it for subtler details, so it doesn't really matter as much. And this is what I talked about before about applying. So I've applied essentially a shade, then washed it to shade into a colour, I should say. then shaded into the recesses with a darker colour, and now I'm applying almost the same colour again over the top, which is something we talked about doing before. Then of course come to it in the end, I'll apply a lighter colour as an edge highlight, which a lot of people hate, and I honestly don't blame them, because it's a chore. But this is what we were talking about shading and highlighting before, about using those same colours and then going around them. I'm probably using slightly the wrong brush for some of this, because there's some very fine areas and some areas that are much need a bigger brush for coverage, so I'll have to try and not do my usual thing of go, I reckon I can do it with this brush. And actually like change brushes where I need to. Sniper Wolf's outfit I'll give you, but I think Meryl's a really good character. I can't comment because I ain't seen enough to know. It was just the scene where she gets shot by Sniper Wolf, and the way that was written was the discussion point. Partly how overblown it was. But I've not played enough of the game to be able to like give a comment. Hi Frezzo, Sarah, just seeing you. How's it going today? Thanks for dropping by. Hope you're having a good day today. I can't remember what exactly me and them was talking about with that, applying the using the same shade to kind of highlight it itself. And I can't remember what brought that up, but essentially that's what I'm doing now. It's almost like I'm resetting the base coat, really, which is something that people do. If you ever like see the guides from like really top painters, and they'll like paint a colour, shade it, then like redo the base coat on almost all, sometimes even on the whole model, right? Usually just on, everything except the deepest recesses, but sometimes on the whole model. And then they'll like do another shade, and then reset the base coat again. But with leaving slightly less in the recesses. A slightly higher recess or whatever, and then reset, shade it again, do it like that, and do like so many layers. And I'll be honest with you, I really don't have the patience. I kind of like the idea of being that person, but I don't have I said I don't have the patience. That's partly I think because I don't have the time. Like if I didn't have to work or I probably maybe I would have the patience to spend that much time doing 20 layers on a single piece. Rather than 3 or 4, Once again, I blame capitalism. Sorry, my nose is really itching. Do you ever find that? I mean, I've got a tash, right? So I don't exactly shave under my nose, but for some reason, whenever I shave, my nose always itches afterwards, and I have no idea why. Because I've got a tash. I'm not shaving under my nose, so I don't know why it does it that. Yeah, when I'm unemployed. When I were at uni even. Oh, when I were at uni or when I were unemployed either. I used to spend so much time on painting stuff or assembling it or whatever. In a vacuum, I get the idea of the female lead being used as a hostage exists to motivate the hero, etc. Sorry, there's going to be more of that. I forget they use punctuation to indicate. In a vacuum, I get the idea of the female lead being used as a hostage exists to motivate the hero, etc. But I think the context here is that it's largely a hostage rescue mission in the first place that matters. Okay. That's his relationship with basically everyone on the island, not actively trying to kill him. Sure. Contrast with rescue of Otacon, for example. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I've not seen the context, so I can't judge it in that regard. I can only judge it on that scene, where it was, to be honest, it was so overblown and like overwrought. It was like a melodrama. But maybe it works in context. I know that Kira's problem was, like you say again, it's the women being used as like bad things happening to women as a motivator for male characters, which is obviously like a big problem with just a lot of media, isn't it? And but like the way it was kind of depicted on the screen at the time, with the kind of the way she's like, no, you're the better one, I'm just a rookie, you gotta save yourself. It's like, even you can see how it comes across, even if that's like explicitly true or whatever. You get it. Anywho, I don't know enough to really comment on it, so I'll stop. I just slipped while I was saying that. Judgment, maybe. Is Otacon the weird guy? I feel like there's a weird guy he rescues. When I saw Squid Game in play it. I'm gonna switch to my smaller brush for a lot. There's too much there's slightly too the flat areas are slightly too big for me to really want to use like a thinner brush. But there's also so much like greebling and little details and stuff that I need to use a smaller brush. So this is quite annoying. for the tourist at least. But tourists are always complicated. They were in real life as well, or are in real life. That's why if you look during the Second World War, not like the Western Allies, if you want to call them that, but if you look at like the Germans and the Soviet Union, like how many sort of assault guns and tank destroyers and stuff they made that were basically tank chassis with an armoured casemate on the top and then a big gun mounted in it. Also, that's spelled casemate, but the word's French, so it should be casemate, shouldn't it? But everyone always says casemate because that's how it's spelled. I feel like if it's French, shouldn't we be saying casemate? Yeah, like far and away, I think for Germany, far and away the most produced armoured vehicle of the Second World War were these like assault guns and tank destroyers. Because turrets are fiddly to make. And apparently model turrets are fiddly to paint as well. We're now discovering. They're also disproportionately heavy. Part of the reason behind things like the Swedish S-Tank, They can make something simpler if it doesn't have a turret. But there's tons of advantages of having turrets, so it's all about, trade-offs. Which I think is, like I've talked about before, I think that's part of the thing that interests me about armoured vehicles in general. Is that there's always like design trade-offs. Which I always find to be very interesting. Like, how do you get the best aspects of every design? Like making the balances of but the iron triangle that I've talked about before, the speed, Arm and maneuverability. Yeah. I just realised I painted over something I shouldn't have done. Okay, that's some nice coverage. I've been having some text, by the way, from my niece. She started texting me because she started at uni. She starts at uni properly tomorrow. But she's on Freshers Week. Been on Freshers Week last week. She's been texting me, about stuff that's happened, and I'm really pleased. And I don't know if anyone, like her dad's told her to do that, or I assume it's just her own idea. But it's just really fun because she's going to the same university that I went to, doing the same degree as I've talked about before. And it's just like really texts me back. It's really nice that she keeps emailing me, like texting me stuff about what she's doing and where she's up to. I'm really enjoying it. Making me want to do it again though. Making me want to go back and do another history degree. They do different courses now. Neat, yeah, it's really cool. And looking at some of the courses they've got on offer, I was like, can I do them? Like, I'll not say what the courses are because I'm not going to dox her or something. But there's this really, really good stuff, like medieval history stuff, and I just, I really want to go and study it. I also found out that the fella who did my, was my dissertation supervisor, my personal tutor for a year, and all of that stuff. Same again for my MA. Has retired now, and I was like, oh, that's that course. That makes sense. But apparently, he's active in writing, but no longer in lecturing. He was really, really good. He always had the first history lecture that you get. He's a medievalist, of course. He was very well remembered for it. I like the social aspect more than the academic aspect. I could have learned most of it from books just as well from a lot of the lecturers. See, I'm the opposite because I'm not. I mean, I don't know if you've realised this about me yet, but but I am like the opposite of social. Like, I'm not antisocial, which some people have called me before. I wouldn't say I was antisocial, but I'm not really a social person. So, and I never really did much socialising at uni. Like, I know you're supposed to, and part of me always wanted to, but I just always really struggled with it, so I just didn't do it. There were opportunities to do it where I could have done and didn't. If there was free booze, you could find me there. Yeah, I get the impression you're much better at just dealing with people than I am, beer at, from things you've said. So I used to be quite content to go to my lectures or seminars. If I didn't, go to the library if I needed it and then go home. But the weird thing is that I had a couple of friends who I used to hang out with a lot. Obviously, I've not seen them in years. And we used to have this thing we did where we'd all got like a seminar. We'd got a seminar at morning. I think we had two of us had the same seminar, one of us had a different seminar, and but it were all at the same time. So we'd meet up after that, and then we'd go to a sandwich shop that was just near history department. I walked downhill from history department, go in this sandwich shop, buy a sandwich and a cake. They were cheap. They were really nice and they were cheap. And then walk down to the student union bar and have some coke. Just hang out because we'd got another lecture or seminar. Like 2 hours after that, we'd got another lecture. We'd got a seminar actually. There we go. So we just all like hang out together. And it was really nice. So occasionally we'd play pool. I was one of those annoying people that sit at the front and try to answer all the professor's questions. It took me a while to get out of my school mode. Because at school, I'd even though I could answer a lot of the questions and stuff if it were history, but I'd learned at school to keep my head down and to not answer questions because that led to bad things for you. So it took me a good few weeks at least, probably a couple of months, to get out of the mindset of just like keeping your head down. And be like, no, this is actually an environment where answering the questions like works, This is where people like you if you answer the questions and know stuff, rather than bullying you for it. One of the people I actually went to was in my year at uni, is now a lecturer there as well, which is really cool. Like, I'm really pleased. That's what I wanted to do, of course. So I'm really pleased that like someone did. That's really nice. Nice lass and all. Always kept self to herself though. Like she was like 110% focused on her course. And, like, I think most time I ever spoke to her is we were on train once. So of course, I can't remember did I see her at station, like the station I got on at, or maybe she was already on train. I can't remember. She had to change at the station I was at. I don't know why. And I just like, or maybe I can't remember. Years ago. Anyway, I got on train. And there she was. So anyway, I ended up like just chatting to her, and she was like really chatty. But when you're at uni, no time for any conversations, no time for chatting. It was just because she was on train and she had nothing else to do. Like, you got no uni work she could do or something on train, so she'd talk to you. But if you were at uni, nope, too busy, too focused. As I remember, she got a boyfriend, and apparently they were getting on really well, but she dumped him because it was too much of a distraction from her studies. So maybe you needed that level of dedication to be a lecturer. Maybe that's why I did not, in fact, become a lecturer. Yeah, like maybe that's why I never made it. That would be why she got a first and I didn't, I think. Sure, she got a first. I can't remember now. Like, I'd be surprised if she didn't get a first, put it that way. She was a modernist, though. Like me. We'd only get like bonus points for good answers, no penalty for getting it wrong. Yeah, like at uni it was always a good thing. At uni, yeah. At school, like, we didn't get punished for getting it wrong. It's because I get bullied from the other kids, which is why at school I learned to keep my head down. Like, getting called square, and then they'd like come and rough you up or whatever if you spoke out in class too much. Whereas of course at uni it was just like conversation. You didn't get marks for getting good answers. There were no like reward for it, except that everyone would be like, oh wow, they're clever, aren't they? Like, people would appreciate the cleverness of it, which is good. I did have a couple of people I ended up having feuds with because I corrected her on something. She got really mad at me and didn't talk to me for a bit. We got through it though. Sitting on an essay on Metal Gear Solid and wondering if this is still even relevant to anyone but me. And Beer says, I'd like to hear it. I mean, Phil, if you want to post an essay in my chat, Loomis, I'll allow you. I might raise my eyebrows though, so if that's a risk you're willing to take. Well, that's literally the only consequence. I might raise my eyebrows. Now, if you're willing to risk me raising my eyebrows at you, that's actually kind of a family thing, that we all do that. That's awful, because I was the biggest nerd in high school, and I'd even tutor my classmates, and they appreciated it. Yeah, it was. It wasn't very fun. It wasn't very fun at all. This, by the way, stuff like this is why in my old office we had that rule that I wasn't allowed to talk about school. That's why we had that rule. Narelon isn't allowed to share school stories because they're all awful and grim and depressing. But yeah, uni, I loved it. Although I've always had this problem where I tend to say the bare minimum because, like, to me, that makes sense, right? And it's obvious. And then the lecturer would be like, explain the rest of that. Like, I give probably the best example is when I were what do you call it, level 3? Is that what they called the third year of your degree at the uni I went to? And they were talking about Gregory of Tours, who is somebody that I've studied extensively. I'm very familiar with the works of Gregory of Tours. He was a bishop in, obviously, Tours, which is now in France. Part one of the Frankish kingdoms in his day, which is the 500s. And he wrote a book called The Histories, which is one of our best sources for 6th century Francia. So that's like the Frankish kingdoms, you know what is now France, more or less. And he's really, really interesting, like an absolutely brilliant historical source. I wrote both my dissertations using his work. And one of the things he talks about a lot is like lights in the sky, strange patterns, things like that, which are like cosmic phenomena, I suppose. And the lecturer said, why is it that he's noticing it so much? And somebody said, well, it's because they've got less to do in those days. So like you're more likely to just like sit outside and look at the stars. And he said, well, that's partly it. What else could it be? Like, what's the main reason why people would notice things like this more? So I just said, light pollution. And he's like, okay, Narelon, like, explain that thought. I was like, there's far less light pollution, so you can actually see all the stuff that's going on. Whereas now, we just can't see it because of all the light pollution. And he's like, yes, exactly. And that was like a standard thing where they'd be like, okay, explain what you mean. Maybe I've always been a bit work smart, not hard. I think what I'm going to have to do is reapply the shade a little in a couple of places. Because there's not like a really sharp detail on some of these corners. So the paint's kind of running a little bit between them, and I'm not necessarily picking up as I'm doing it what's supposed to be which bit. Yeah. I think that's part of Meryl's character. There's this whole thing about her being from a military family and feeling that she had to be a soldier. She's kind of role-playing what she imagines the veteran soldier to be like, making sacrifices for the mission, doing what she's supposed to do. Okay. Snake's the idea of what she thinks will make her family proud. The grim, loyal soldier, but Snake's not a happy person. Yeah, I think someone in chat yesterday actually said something pretty similar. But again, I can't really. Can't really comment. Some like the texture of the plastic on the top of the tank's got slightly. It's not perfectly flat, and I don't know why. It's really strange. I wonder if the when it's spray undercoated, I wonder if that's left like a residue or something. It's really strange. I mean, it doesn't matter. Anyway, it kind of adds a texture to the material, which that does happen in real life. So it's not a problem. Just I don't know why it happens. And it's strange that it has. I don't like things that I can't explain on my models. It actually looks a little bit like the stuff that they used to apply to tanks during the Second World War to like try and break up the, to stop them light shining off, stuff like that. The contrast between the mission's needs and a human needs from the soldier's point of view is one of the key themes of the game. I tell you though, the mummy niece talks about union. The more she gets into it, I think, the more it like takes me back, and I love being at uni so much. But don't get me wrong, I got rid of depression while I was there, but I already suffer from it. It's chronic low mood, but I was depressed at one time while I was at uni. But I still miss the whole thing of it, trooping up to train, even though that could be a chore at times. Going to train, catching train to to each city, and then to commute that I didn't live in. And then trooping up and having your lectures and seminars and seeing who falls asleep in auditorium this week. The Students' Union auditorium was really warm and really dark, and it were really hard not to fall asleep in lectures. We used to you tease each other something fierce if somebody does. Well rested, all that kind of stuff. Feel better for that. And then going to the university, got a few libraries. I'm going to university libraries and getting your books out that you need and like sitting down with them and finding your sources and studying through them, and he could do it without taking them out. Sometimes you just take them home, of course, but I used to try and, if I'd got stuff from library, I used to try and do it in there rather than like taking them home. I don't know why, I just preferred to. I think it's just saving the effort. I used to like that. I read an interesting point the other day by an academic where they were talking about, the STEM only kind of people. Who kind of, who say, like we should only study science, technology, engineering and maths. And like humanities don't they don't teach you anything, right? Is the thinking. And one of the problems actually with that is that the humanities actually subsidise the STEM courses. And it's really true, and I'd not even thought about it. But this academic historian, I think, who was pointing it out that humanities courses are so cheap for the university, but they cost the same price, right? Because that's how university courses work. They have to charge the same, regardless of what they are. But they're actually really cheap to run, Because beyond your lecturers' like wages, you don't really need many resources. Just have a few copies of books in the library, and even then it's usually one, right? And so of course the university is getting that money, which it then spends on all the materials and stuff needed for like science and courses like that. So you get rid of humanities, all the other education suffers as well, just from an economic perspective. So that was really interesting. I ended that with a comma, and I wish I hadn't, because I don't know what I wish I hadn't, because I don't know what was following it. Her overall arc is moving away from doing things to make the men in her life proud and towards doing things to make herself proud, and she becomes a much happier person as a result. Oh, that's nice. I guess we did do a fairly shallow reading of that situation from the death scene. Yeah, I think it's always a problem with things out of context, and it may well be that in the game it's a better handled, but I think the kind of the sort of the death scene that Vera's referring to does come across that really, really badly. But, I'm sure from what Loomis says, in the wider context of the game, it's not so bad. That scene is very heavily overacted, I will give you that. It's so hammy and like it goes on so long. Like it just goes on so long. Like it's kind of funny how overblown it is. I can appreciate like overblown scene. It's a bit like MSG1 is kind of them trying to do too much for their budget, I think. Maybe, yeah. They just needed somebody, like, just do it naturalistically and you'll be alright. Later games are better in that they are hammy on purpose instead of by accident. Yeah. It feels a bit amdram, like amateur dramatic society where somebody's doing what they think is like good acting in that scene and it just comes across like really hammy and overblown. Most universities here are free except a few weird private business schools that I don't think get recognised as actual tertiary education by anyone. But those are a very recent, last 15 years type of thing. Yeah, universities here used to be free. Blair's government changed it to cost a grand a year, £1,000 a year, with the rest being provided by the government. Then Blair's government changed later. Blair's government changed it to £3,350 a year. Which is what I paid. Then, like, pretty much as soon as the Tories got in, they tripled it to £10,000 a year. Now, we have student loans here, so like you don't pay any of that up front if you're a UK citizen. Obviously, in Scotland, it's free because the Scottish government has devolved powers over education, so the Scots kept it free. Although the Scottish government also did what I think is a bit of a dick move, in that it was free for anyone from Scotland or the EU, but you had to pay the full price if you were from England or Wales, which seems like a dick move to me. Like if you're from France or whatever, you get it free, but if you're from Wales, you don't. Like even if you want to stick it to the English, why stick it to the Welsh and the Northern Irish as well? Doesn't make sense, right? Fucking neo-libs. Yeah, and the Tories just made it far, far worse. And what I should say as well is, as well as I'm going to say that my mind's gone blank. To be fair, we don't pay for tuition, but we do pay for lodging. Though if you're poor, you can get that for free or cheaper in student dorms. And food is heavily subsidised heavily too. Universities provide so much accommodation and stuff, and you can get a loan. You get a loan for that as well. You get a maintenance loan of so many grand a year. And again, you only pay these back after you earn above 20 grand a year. So for a long time, I didn't pay anything back. I didn't need the maintenance loan though, thankfully. what I would say is as well, when I'm saying about the universities cost the same price, I don't know how it works in Slovenia, but in the UK, in England and Wales, the universities get a certain amount per student, or used to get a certain amount per student. Now we have to pay it all ourselves. But it used to be a certain amount per student, and that money came from the government, regardless of what subject you were doing. So even then, the humanities were still like funding sciences and stuff. We're still funding sciences and stuff because they got the same per pupil rather than per like cost. Not quite like, it's a bit different to like hospitals and stuff where you get paid what the patient had, as it were. For universities, you just got a flat rate regardless of the course. Wait, how was the Brexit vote in Wales? Maybe that's why. Or maybe it's a legal thing that they're not allowed to discriminate based on what part of the UK people are from other than Scotland, or no. This was way before Brexit. This was in the 90s and early 2000s. Although Wales did also vote. Wales and England voted leave, I think. Or was the vote was very closely split in Wales? I remember that much in the Brexit vote. England voted just in favour of leave. Or 51-49, something ridiculous that. Or a little bit more, when it was 60-40 in England. And then in Scotland it was like the other way around, but there's too few Scots to really make a difference. In Northern Ireland it was very heavily Remain. I think Wales was just pro-leave, I can't remember now. Fraser says Dick moved to the Welsh, yeah, but fair game for the English. I can see why people think that because of, I get it. But I'm always a little bit uncomfortable with like people being punished for what nationality they are. Like I don't disagree as such, but that whole thing about like L plus you're British or whatever. I'm always a bit like, I get it, but like it always just makes me uncomfortable. I have a meeting bearing in mind, just to put context, as a kid I used to be very anti-American, like kid and a teenager or whatever, and then I kind of had this thing of like, I shouldn't be blaming like just the average American for like America for the US, But again, I'm not being prescriptive there. I was lucky enough that I got some kind of stipend for having a high GPA, or whatever the non-American term is. When I quit uni, I had no debt. Oh, very nice. Yeah, I don't even know what the British term would be there. I was in the gifted and talented. Although I also got into uni because I didn't get the good enough grades to get into the university I wanted to get into. And because I was from a poor area, the university was offering like dispensations. What they call it, a compact with schools from poor areas in the region, which was all the regions around here are poor except like one. Right. But because I was from a poor region, they were actually letting you to have like degrees, like qualification results lower than you needed. And plus, head of sixth form wrote a letter to him and was like, Narelon has suffered with depression. Maybe he would have done better if he wasn't depressed. And that actually is how I got into uni, which is remarkable. It might still be some no regional discrimination law, though. I mean, it could be. But it feels weird that they're allowed to, charge people from other parts of the UK, but not, but won't charge people in the EU. Feels strange to me. We have a countrywide stipend for poor students. I think it's called the Republic Stipend or something. I would have gotten that one had the GPA one not gone through. And that's stuff like that's so good. Like, you should have that, and university should be free. Like, in the 70s, when my dad went to uni, first member of his family to ever do it, he did it, right? He went to uni, and he got it. University were free in those days, and he got stipends to, because, he couldn't afford it, because he was poor. I have a meeting tomorrow where I may find out whether I have a job or not. Context for everyone outside the UK, a number of county and city councils all declared bankruptcy basically at once. I probably won't find out tomorrow. It would be very out of character for them to work out a plan this quickly, but it will be a main topic of discussion at the meeting. The Tories have been trying to kill off small libraries for a while, and that's where I work, so this might be the excuse. Yeah, it's awful. I actually had this discussion on radio the other day because my phone wouldn't connect. In something like between 1997 and 2010, I think one council declared bankruptcy. Right? And it's much more common now. Birmingham City Council, which is the second biggest city in the UK, declared bankruptcy last week. There's like a technical term for it. Is it like section 1148 or something? Which is when a council says it doesn't have enough money to provide the services it's legally required to provide. And the Tories have responded by appointing commissioners to run the council and to look at where savings can be made and what council assets can be sold off. You know, that's very obviously the neo-lib agenda, isn't it? Selling off public assets, of course, they always do it. And then, is it 26 or 22 have done it now all in one go? Or is it like 8 did it in one go with 26 others going at the same time? 26 last I saw, that's it. I know there was so many done it, like, we're going to do it in one go, and then there were like 26 others, I think, we're going to do it as well. It's really, really bad. And it's just part of this really wider problem in the UK that we've had these 13 years of so-called austerity, which is just taking money out of essential services in the name of like the debt or whatever, which first of all is utter nonsense, right? It's utter nonsense because national debt don't work like that, which I think we probably all know here anyway. But secondly, they can find billions upon billions to put where they want it to. So it's not even like they're in any money, or that they even believe their own lies about how there's not enough money to go around, because they know there is, because they can spend it when they want to. Our Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, when he was Chancellor, wrote off £15 billion of COVID-related fraud, which was where PPE had been ordered by the government on what was known as the VIP lane, which was officially so that companies didn't have to go through the usual government scrutiny, right, to get a government contract, because it was urgently needed for the country. But you'd got companies who were registered like the day before and whose addresses were like a pub, or like 8 companies registered to the same house on like a random street. And these were getting contracts for like millions and hundreds of millions of pounds. And it was very obviously fraud, but nobody would, well, because they were in this VIP lane, they weren't being checked. And of course that's the point. These are often connected to government ministers. So the story goes. Like there was one company that was set up the day before it got a contract worth like 20 million quid or whatever, that was owned by the then health secretary's pub landlord. Like the pub we went to regularly, the landlord suddenly opened a PPE business and got millions of pounds worth of contract that he didn't deliver on. So they certainly can spend the money when they want to. And like a lot of this money was declared to be outright fraud, but Rishi Sunak said, well, nothing we can do about it. And now they're trying to like quibble money off of libraries and things and claiming that, you know, the Loomis says the libraries are a non-essential service, so we're not in a good spot. It's just part of that right-wing agenda to another further attack on the working class, isn't it? You know, because they don't want people to be educated. They don't want people to have time to think and to question and to say, hold on a minute, this isn't fair, this isn't right. They want people to be just struggling day to day, keeping their head down, worried about losing the jobs, worried about are we going to have enough to eat, and never being able to question or challenge what they're doing. And it makes me so angry. Like, it really does. It really does make me angry. Like, I know what the answer is, but I don't know if it's coming anytime soon. Like, I don't know when we get the revolution. Yeah, exactly, B-Rat. That's exactly what the answer is. And instead, my dad's been waiting since the 70s, by the way, which is always a depressing thought. Probably before the 70s, actually, but it was the 70s when my dad joined the Workers' Revolutionary Party, and they were being trained to be the vanguard, you know. They actually even had two of the members of the Workers' Revolutionary Party were famous actors, and they bought a house in Derbyshire in England, which got nicknamed the Red House, you know, as parody of the White House, where they actually people actually ran like training courses for what to do when the revolution comes, you know, how to be the vanguard and everything. They were Trotskyists. That's how my dad ended up a Trotskyist. But in a move that'll shock no one, the party ended up falling apart because it turned out that some men in it were using it as a way of mistreating women, which is probably no great shock, I'm afraid to say. The library gets so much use, it's really upsetting to think about it getting closed. A lot of the elderly people who use it won't be able to travel to reach a bigger library. Or all of the people who come in to use the computers. We've got a bunch of people who use our computers to look for work. What are they going to do? You can't get a job without a computer and they can't afford to travel. And that's all part of the plan, isn't it? To make things harder for people, make things worse for people. It's tempting to think that they're so incompetent they don't realise what they're doing, but no, they do. Because it's deliberate. It's deliberately causing harm to the working people of this country. The working class people, I mean, not the working people. These are at work. I don't want to engage in workism, you know. Workerism, sorry. What I meant. But yeah, it's just awful. I'm so sorry you've got to that over your head, Loomis. I do hope you keep your job. I do hope the library stays open. I know there's nothing I can do about that, but if there's anything I can do to help you, you know I always will. It's just awful. Yeah. We've got to, you know, it's going to take a revolution to sort it all out, isn't it? But I don't know I don't 100% know what we do till then. There's a lot we can do. You know, that's kind of what Red Planet's about. We'll probably be raiding into later. We do every week, so I don't imagine it'll be any different this week. Right, where we look at how we can help each other get through it, how we can do the little communisms, I suppose. Is that the right term, little communisms? I can't remember who came up with that. Where we help each other out, and whoever it was talked about building socialist people as well. You know, get people used to the ideas. Help each other out and that, but I suppose that only goes so far in a lot of ways. Although we ended up talking about the specifics, that's kind of what I always meant when I talked about the reservoir problem. Which is like, how do we deal with these big problems that are kind of out of control to do anything about? What do we do there to make that kind of stuff better? I don't have the answer. Now I can neaten this up. I've kind of made a hack of this little bit here under the turret. It must thought it was slightly weird that I'm balancing the turret on my finger, by the way. While I'm painting this. I keep occasionally looking up into the camera and precariously balancing the turret on my finger. And I was surprised to learn there's a small and not often discussed union at my work. I'm not sure if it's any good. I've seen a few Yella/company unions, but if it's a good one, I might try to get word to all our lowest paid and temporary workers. Yeah, good thinking, Beer. That's a good thing to do. I think most people in my office aren't union, which I know isn't the best one, but it's really big, so that gives it a certain amount of power. But even so, I'm always talking about that kind of stuff at work. Got a reputation for it, which I don't think is a bad reputation to have. The general unions here are unfortunately often friendly with cop unions, so it's a weird place for me to be at the minute. Yeah, we don't have like police unions in the UK. There's the Police Federation, that's like the body that represents police, which like kind of functions like a trade union for them. But they're not legally allowed to like have a trade union of their own. So it's more just like a body that represents police or whatever. They moan a lot, but they don't really have a lot of say. The big problem here, in terms of like union cooperation, is that, I know it's been discussed on Red Planet, is those unions who represent like public sector workers, which will inevitably involve stuff like prison officers and like home office staff or whatever. They're not like all home office, I mean like the immigration officials. I know like a lot of home office stuff is just like issuing passports. Like I don't really have I don't think is there really an issue with people who issue like whose job is to process passport paperwork? Like for British citizens, I don't know if that's really an issue. But like the immigration officials, that's another matter. Some of the police here are now on strike. They feel it shouldn't be possible for them to be charged with murder. Yeah, it was. The firearms officers have handed in the guns, haven't they, in London, in the Metropolitan Police, because they shot down a fella and it was basically ruled as murder, and it was murder. And like everyone, because it Met are the worst. Like all the police, obviously all police are bad, but the Met are the closest we've got in the UK to like overtly like an American style police force. And yeah, they're handing in they're refusing to be firearms officers because a group on them shot a fella, a black man, if you shockingly, for like no reason, and then lied about it because business as usual, isn't it? We're a lot safer with the police on strike. I think the last time the police actually like went on strike was 1919. I just remember that detail because it was just after the First World War. And so they, in Liverpool, there were a lot of unrest. So the government deployed tanks on the public square to just like frighten people, I guess. They didn't use them for anything. I think they did the same in Glasgow as well. I'm saying the Met's the worst, and it is. Well, I always find it surprising when it's like you have a police force that you wouldn't think would really get up to much. I know they all do, but there'll be some like fairly minor police force And you're like, wait, why are they doing whatever? And of course it's because all police are bad, right? The A in ACAB is very relevant. Like South Wales police. What are South Wales police getting up to doing all sorts of awful things? They cover like 12 people. They don't, it's like 1 million. But yeah, there's a lot that can really get you down. And I'll do a piece to camera for the moment while I stretch my shoulders. There's a lot that can really get you down about the world as it is. And that's, for me, stuff like painting models, that's why it's so important for me. Because I need to be able to like get away from it all. And I don't mean that we can't talk about it when I'm painting models on stream, because this is a stream, it's different. You know, I've got communism in the tag for a reason. And I consider having any platform, even if it's 3 people who already agree with me, to be important to talk about this stuff. I think it's really necessary. And if I ever say anything you don't agree with, I know Loomis and Bira already do, but if I ever say anything that you disagree with, that you think is off, then please do, call me out on it. Please do be like, actually, Narelon, I don't think that's right. Because I know you've always done it before. But please continue to do so. Napping is good, actually. I mean, B-Right, did you have to go there? Like, straight away? Oh, you didn't need a moment, did you? You'd got that prepared. Had you already got it copied into your clipboard, ready to deploy? Right for the throat. I have to stand with Ms. Strimler at Kira Chats and say no to naps. It yeah, no mercy there, will there be, right? But seriously though, like that's such a cute emote. I love that one. But like when it comes to other matters, if I say something you think actually that I learn, I think that's off. The modern concept of a single 8-hour sleep is a capitalist invention. I defy your factory owner stance on naps. Now, I actually agree with that. But this isn't about naps. That's about having 2 sleeps. That is not a nap. Having 8 hours sleep divided into 2 halves is different to a nap. And in this essay I will... Did you know that, I was explaining this to my mum the other day. The Catholic Church in the Middle Ages had a huge laundry list of rules about sex, about when you could and couldn't do it. And one of them was you couldn't have sex in the gap between your first sleep and your second. I don't know why that's important, but that's what they considered important. The semantics of naps versus sleeps, a thread 1/40. That sounds like the best time, to be honest. I think that's it. Because I was watching a video on the History Hit YouTube channel. And I don't know if that's any good in general, but they've got videos by Dr. Eleanor Yaniger, and there was a brilliant historian. She's really, really good. And she's a historian of the Middle Ages, specialises in the Holy Roman Empire, but specialises as well in things like sex and gender, which are very neglected areas of medieval history, to be honest. And what she was saying, and she did a video, it's like half an hour I think, about sex in the Middle Ages, and the chief point of the Catholic rules on sex in the Middle Ages were to stop you enjoying it, because they were worried, they didn't want people to enjoy it too much. It's that idea of too much pleasure is sinful, which actually isn't specifically a Christian idea. I know a lot of people imagine that the Catholic Church invented that or something, and I get it. But the Greeks and Romans had similar ideas, actually. That's really where it kind of comes from. St. Augustine of Hippo was the first Catholic theologian to really write about this stuff, and he was very much like a Roman citizen, That's when people mostly did it, from what I've read. Yeah, absolutely. And so they were trying to stop people having too much fun with the idea is that too much pleasure is sinful. It goes back to the Stoics and stuff, and a lot of Greco-Roman philosophy is this idea that you shouldn't enjoy things too much. which is like, no. A long line of miserable people who want everyone else to also be miserable. Absolutely. One of the things you realise as a historian, as an aside, by the way, and it's the most painful one, is that a lot of commonly accepted things about history aren't true, but like everyone believes them, and so suddenly you're like the only person. You feel like you're the only person who knows. And it happens everywhere. Like people will say things, right? They'll talk about the Dark Ages or whatever. And you're constantly faced with that choice of, do I just let it slide even though I know what they've said is historically inaccurate? Or do I go, excuse me? Or should I say, do I go, actually, I think you'll find that the Dark Ages did not exist, and you're referring to the early Middle Ages? Is that what you do, or do you just let it slide? It torments me almost daily. That's my own little grab. I feel like there are big branches of Buddhism and Hinduism that are big on pleasure deprivation too. Yeah, absolutely. It's not just a European thing or just a Christian thing or whatever. There's like kind of asceticism and similar things seem to just exist as like a human thing. And of course, because we're familiar with Christianity or familiar with, the kind of the Catholicism or whatever in Europe, North America, that's what we always think of, and we kind of attribute it to that. And we can kind of build up almost like a picture in our minds of a world where everyone's just like having fun, except for the church got in the way or whatever, and it's not necessarily historically accurate, even though the church it has a big emphasis on not having fun. You didn't really take the bait on my literary eras thing, sorry, Lewis. But I did. But I had a few things prepared. Would you say the Dark Ages began in 500 or 700? The Dark Ages didn't exist at all. You're referring to the early Middle Ages. And I think you can actually argue that it's around 500 for the fall of the Western Roman Empire, or around 800 for the coronation of Charlemagne. Although you could also take the rise of Islam in around 700 and something as the start of the early Middle Ages. I'm being very restrained right now. My first criticism of Dark Ages is always that it's very Eurocentric and limited, even if it is a myth. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's the first thing. I need a number, please. Give me a date. 476. 476. The Mad Teabagger. What a name. Mega Van Nen, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for the follow. I'll be having a good day today. 476, fall of the Western Roman Empire. Or Christmas Day, 800, the coronation of Charlemagne. And my start dates for the early Middle Ages. Because there's a significant overlap between what we think of as the early Middle Ages and what we would call the late antique period. Sorry, I took your bait and now I'm ignoring what Vera said, which is actually very valid. Hello there, how's it going? I'm fine, thank you. Hope you're having a good day today yourself. I've had a busy day, but I'm alright. Yeah, you could say the fall of the Western Roman... I mean, I date the Middle Ages as the fall of the Western Roman Empire as the start, and the fall of the Eastern Roman Empire in 1453 as the end. That's how I break it up. But I do think you can entirely argue that we need more of a concept of late antiquity than a lot of the early Middle Ages, because, we look at, for example, when Clovis became king of the Franks, and the Bishop of Reims, was it? Maybe Auvergne or something like that, wrote Clovis a letter and congratulated him on becoming governor of Belgica Secunda. And this is about 30 years after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Red Planet is on the intro screen. I got to go grab snacks. Thank you for the stream. Thank you for being here, B-Rat. We'll raid in a little bit, and I'll see you there. No problem. Thank you for being here and keeping me company as always, and providing some interesting conversation as you do. But yeah, so he's the bishop congratulated Clovis on being not king of the Franks, but as governor of Belgica Secunda, which of course didn't exist anymore. But he was obviously still seeing things through a Roman lens, regarding things as though the Roman Empire still existed. Decades later, you get Gregory of Tours writing about Clovis defeating Syagrius, king of the Romans, when really Syagrius was almost certainly, although we don't know for 100%, was almost certainly a magister militum, who sort of was carrying on as though the Roman Empire still existed. To the Franks of later times, who passed that story on to Gregory, they regarded him as a king, of course, because that's what they had in those days. But he was almost certainly a Roman official acting as though the Roman Empire was still carrying on. I'm going out of my mind over here. I ordered my first minis and painting supplies a couple of days ago. The waiting is killing me. I hate waiting. I want to paint. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's so frustrating, isn't it, when you got to wait for something. What have you ordered? What are you waiting to paint? I'll have to collect Red Planet on the VOD. I have to be up early tomorrow. Yeah, the VOD's available on YouTube. I think Wednesday, is it? It takes a few days, I know, for the VOD to go up on YouTube. You'll be able to catch it there. They've got the guest Jamie Peck, and I said Gregory Peck. Like, yes, the actor famous in the 50s. No, Jamie Peck, that's going to be today's guest, talking about Cop City in Georgia, is it? Who's messaging me? Oh, okay, yeah, Red Planet's gone live. About a protest to stop the so-called Cop City in, I think it's Georgia in the US, and what's being done there to complain about that and to oppose that decision. I don't really know Jamie Peck, but I know she's famous in some online left-wing circles. So a lot of people are really thrilled about her being a guest today. I'm going to... the thing I was looking at basically said the 500s to the 700s was a transitional period. Absolutely. Although if you go as far as 800, I might have to move Beowulf from the medieval shell to the antiquity shell. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's very, very interesting, and you can go into great length as a historian discussing where the line is, and I think it's important to note it's not everywhere at once. Same with the end of the Middle Ages, you can make a good case that the end of the Middle Ages in, say, England is actually either 1485, which is when the first Tudor monarch becomes king, or 1513, when forces, belonging Henry VIII, not Henry VIII himself though, defeated a Scottish army at the Battle of Flodden Field. And it very much played out as like a medieval battle. And the King of Scotland was killed in that battle. It was the last British monarch to die in battle. It was one of those, and we'll have to talk about this another time actually, because it's really interesting. But despite what like Braveheart and stuff might tell you, there was a whole like span of battles between England and Scotland where Scottish forces were just that bit kind of worse organised and just kind of lost to smaller English forces, despite Scotland having a much smaller population. And then, England being distracted by war with France and Scotland being able to gain ground and so on and so forth. But the last one was the Battle of Flodden Field, the last time England and Scotland kind of did that dance. I ordered a handful of 36mm figures and a 75mm Ogre King off Etsy. A Succubus and Incubus by WizKids off Amazon. I'm into D&D monsters. Oh, that's very cool. I've never played... Well, I've played D&D like once or twice, but I've kind of got a bit more into it recently because a streamer I really like called Kira Chats has been streaming Baldur's Gate 3, and that's kind of awoken something in me. I'm too tight to buy Baldur's Gate 3 at 50 quid though. Comes down a bit in price. I'll probably do it. Although she makes it look really fun, so I'm tempted to do it even though it's 50 quid. Very poorly organised. Who's in charge of all this history? I know, like all these like dates and conflicts and stuff that's less clear. Like who's doing this? Like, can we have a word with the king of history? To be fair, it keeps historians in a job because we can endlessly debate about where the boundaries fall. And again, it's very localized as well. Like B-Rat says, about even though the Dark Ages is a myth, the very concept is very Eurocentric, which is entirely Eurocentric. And a lot of when we talk about history, a lot of the time we're talking about like a specific era. When we talk about a specific era, we're talking about a specific place. When we talk about the Middle Ages, we're really talking about Europe. We very often treat it as though that's the same the world over. And we really shouldn't. We can acknowledge that these are contemporary. So, what is, say, Europe in the middle, the early Middle Ages in Europe is a different period in China. And it can be interesting to, compare and contrast how things are similar, how things are different. Very interesting, in fact, I would say. But, that they're not the same time period, and we shouldn't expect that kind of things to be the same. I think it can be really important to make those distinctions and kind of understand. Although it does lead to one of my favourite things about how you could have a role-playing game set in the 19th century, where your characters are a French pirate, a Japanese samurai, an American cowboy, and stuff like that. Because they all exist like contemporaneously, There was a fourth one, but I can't remember what it was. An English gentleman, maybe. I don't like the way I'm painting that gun mantlet. That'll need more work. I played D&D many years ago. Baldur's Gate 3 made me want to play again. Then I fell down the minis rabbit hole because I have a strong art background. I want to try painting minis. Oh, very good. I see I'm terrible at art, right? I like doing it. I like drawing and stuff like that. But I'm bad at it. I'd probably need to do a very great deal of practice to get better, But I like painting models. And I don't reckon I'm good enough at it. This is a very early stage, so. But I reckon I'm good enough at it. I'm not great, but I'm good enough at it and I enjoy it. So I bet if someone's good at art, they'd be much better at painting than I am, maybe even. Although, of course, I'll always say that you should do it for the fun of it, regardless of like ability or whatever. I still muted it. Yep. Yeah, we got another few minutes yet. When so the stream we're going to raid is called Red Planet. We're not going to do it just yet. They're still on the starting soon screen, so we'll paint a little bit longer. And then when they're off the starting soon screen, we'll raid into them. It's a good stream. It's a comedy discussion stream about how we can build a better world, which I think is always nice to hear. Art is subjective. One does not need to be the best artist to love and enjoy the process. Absolutely right, Mad Teabagger. That's a funny name to say every time, by the way. Especially when we're talking about the subjective nature of art with Mad Teabagger. It's brilliant. But yeah, absolutely, and I'm glad you make that point, because it's a trap I fall into a lot, where I think, well, it's not good. Like what I've done isn't good. But absolutely, and like if you enjoy the process, that's what matters. And especially when it comes to painting models, like unless you're doing it for commission, or you're doing it to enter a competition, the thing that matters most is whether you enjoy it. It's a mistake I made when I was a kid, and I have to make sure I don't fall into that mindset when I judge myself. That what matters is your enjoyment of it. For me, it's very relaxing. It's what I enjoy doing. It's what I like to do to kind of cope with the world a little bit. It's almost like many a time I'd say it's a bit like mindfulness, if that's the sort of thing you're into. So I'm not really into mindfulness itself, but this is my equivalent, or like those colouring books for adults. I know they said adult colouring books, which is actually a very different proposition. Although I'm sure they do exist. But I know they do actually. I think I've seen some. My ancestors from the Scottish Highlands. The picture so badass the Romans built Hadrian's Wall to keep them out. I always remember a book I read where a cowboy visiting Japan wins an Iaido competition. Iaido? The samurai are like, how can a Westerner be so good at sword fighting? And he's like, no, I literally can't sword fight. It's just, this is basically the same as the quick draw. Yeah, I like that, because it is, right? Yeah. I do remember an account of, it was a guide for British people visiting Japan in the 1870s. You know, after the US forcibly opened up Japan in the 1860s. There's a bit of civil war and whatever. There's a guide for British people visiting Japan, and it said, don't bother taking a sword. Like, they will be better at it than you. But just take your revolver. Just take a revolver and you'll be fine. And the guy hosting him makes a mint because he's the only one betting in the Cowboys' favour. That's brilliant. I like that. I'm a huge history buff. Oh, very good. You'll get along fine here then. So I'm a massive history nerd. That's what I did at uni too. Got 2 degrees in history, and we'll talk about it a lot from time to time. Specialised in the Middle Ages. But I spent a lot of time studying lots of different history. Not just at uni, just like for my own interest as well. Like from being a little kid, I've been into history, been fascinated by it. My niece is now doing history at the same university that I did it at, which is absolutely lovely. I'm so pleased about that. My brother's a history teacher. So there's a strong family connection too. Let's have a look. Okay, so they're off the starting soon screen. So we're gonna do a raid. We're gonna kind of wrap up there, and we're gonna do a raid. I hope you all hang around for that. We're gonna raid Red Planet Live, which I've talked about before, and I'll send us over on a raid in a moment. So please join that. I'm gonna have to. I'm a retired army veteran. The history of war is so interesting. It really is. I hope you'll come back for more streams, Mad Teabagger, and perhaps we'll be able to talk more history. I'd like that. Because I'm coming up to the end of my time now for today. So I hope you'll come around for some more in the future. Loomis, thank you so much for the resubscription. 3 months. Is it a quarter of a year already? Thank you so much for that, Loomis. I really appreciate it. I can't believe it's 3 months already. Thank you for remaining part of the House of Narelon. I really appreciate that, pal. Thank you. But yeah, so we're going to finish up now. We're going to raid. I'm going to be back on Tuesday at around 2000 BST for Minecraft, and that's going to be with Loomis there in the chat. And we're going to be back a week today at 1800 BST. I'm always late, but that's the plan. We're going to be more painting. We're going to carry on painting the tank. We've basically just painted most of the turret today, not even all of it. I'm very slow. But yeah, join the Discord. We remember the ancient oaths. Thank you, Loomis. Yeah, check out. We're going to, at some point, have VODs of the previous streams up on the YouTube. At the minute, there's some old Let's Play videos that we did. Copy and paste the raid message if you please. I'm going to have to move this because I've got to tab my keyboard. My keyboard is actually under under what I paint on. So we're going to raid Red Planet Live. I hope you'll all hang out for that one. It's a good stream. Thank you everybody for joining me. Let's get this going. Let's get everybody joined. There we go. We're starting the raid. Everybody please join in. Copy and paste the raid message if you would like to. We're going to raid them. Thank you everybody for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed that. It's been a fun stream. Thank you Loomis, B-Rat, Frezzo, and the Mad Teabagger. Thank you again for the follow. Thank you for keeping me company. That's been a lot of fun. I hope you've been... Wow, my arms look super white in the light of my monitor, don't they? Let me move them out of the way and stop dazzling you. Yeah, let's go and do that. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you. Great stream. Thank you, Loomis. I'll flick us over onto the ending screen, and then we'll raid in. Great stream. See you next time. Thank you, Loomis. Hope to see you all soon. Until then, take care and Namarie.